Hello, this is Brian Rowe from Mythic MTG Tech doing a top 10 list for Theros. I'm really excited for Theros. The pre-release is coming up this weekend. These is one of the most flavorful, interesting sets I've seen in a long time. Arabian Nights has always been on my top list, and I'm glad that Wizards of the Coast is taking mythology as a reference point for another set. This is the card that I would put at the top of the list if this list wasn't comprised of only new spells. Thoughtseize is amazing. It's been dropping in price a lot recently. I've seen it as low as 25 for pre-orders and individuals talking about it trading at 20. Now is the time to buy it. Now is the time to trade for it. This will be a powerhouse in Standard, is a powerhouse in Modern, and will be for a long time a staple card in Legacy. Pick them up now. Let's move on to the honorable mentions here. There are many cards that I want to be really good, and I just can't find a deck for them. A lot of people have been talking about Steam Augury as the new Fact or Fiction. The one bad part about this card, though, is that you will not get the best card that you need out of the 5 cards, because they're going to divide the after you divide the piles up. If your opponent knows what's going on, they're probably going to toss the good card. So yes, you may end up getting 3 or 4 cards off of this, but they're going to be the cards you don't want. Also, red-blue is much more restrictive than mono-blue. I do like this card. I think it's playable. It needs the right deck, but I haven't been able to find that yet. That's why it didn't make it into the top 10. Fleecebane Lion, which has made it to the top of other people's lists in the top 2 or 3, is not that good. I just don't know how to say it. A 2 casting cost 3/3 was great a few years ago, but you want a bigger board impact. With Searing Spear still in the environment, the toughness of 3 is not enough for him to live. The monstrosity ability is amazing, but it costs 5. Most decks, you're going to want to use that ability the turn after he comes out. Against a control deck, they're going to have a whole turn in order to deal with this guy. I'm not that impressed with him. We'll see what happens, but I would much rather play a Voice of Resurgence than him in my deck. Last Breath is a great card. It just didn't make the top 10 cut. It's a really nice control card. I like that it exiles. The gaining life doesn't matter to control decks. Control decks have a lot of interesting options right now, and I definitely like this one. The number 10 spot here, I have Shrine to Nyx, which a lot of people are comparing to Guy's Cradle. It's not Guy's Cradle. It's not even close to Guy's Cradle. But if there is a deck that can take advantage of monstrosity, it's going to include Shrine to Nyx. Maybe a one-of in a deck as a way to go over the top or add some extra power, but it has a lot of potential in those devotion god-based decks. In the number 9 spot here, I've got the new Prophet. This is basically Seaborn Muse and Yeva stapled onto one card. Those of us who play EDH know that this card is amazing. This will be an EDH staple forever. If there's a control deck that can play it, it will also be good in Standard. The ability to tap out to cast this guy and then untap all your lands and have Plasma Capture or the new counterspell that Scry's available is just amazing. I love this guy. I'm not sure he's Standard playable, but he's well worth picking up just for the EDH crowd. And if he fits into a Prime Speaker Zagana deck, he's going to be, or she's going to be just amazing. Number 8 spot here, I've got Boon Satyr. Overall, I don't like Bestow. It's an overpriced mechanic, and it confuses people that enchantment is just something you add to another card. But Boon Satyr is a great card. 4/2 flash is the type of thing you want in a super aggressive deck. This allows you to cast it at the end of your opponent's turn, and then it has kind of a haste effect. It screws up combat math. The 5 mana Bestow here basically acts like a great giant growth. Maybe you can 3-for-1 them, but you're at least going to get to 2-for-1 them with this card. Really happy. The only thing that's difficult is that it's competing with Gorg Clan Rampager, which is another amazing card in that same style of deck. In the number 7 spot here, I have the new guild gates, the Scry guild gates. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying these are a great card, but they're going to see tournament play. People love playing multicolored decks. These are significantly better than the guild gates, and in the right deck, they're going to help you get answers. The right deck for these is a control deck. Aggro decks are going to hate these guys because they want to curve out. 1 caster, 2 caster, 3 caster, 4 caster. Aggro decks should not be playing these. But your Esper control decks could definitely play these. If you drop this on turn 1 in a deck where you really have no 1-drops, and then you get the answer you need, you get closer to that supreme verdict, you gain a significant advantage. They also may see a little bit of fringe play in Modern. Combo decks like to go through their deck and find what they need. If you can even leave that on top of your deck so that you go off next turn, it helps deal with a Thoughtseize or a Duress. I would definitely pick these up, but I would wait till after they drop down to the $4 or $5 range, or once they rotate out of Standard if you want to use them in Modern in a combo style deck. We just don't have any other lands, so while they're in Standard, they're going to be a few dollars. They could even go up as high as the $10 or $12 range because people are going to need them for decks. But long term, there's very little value in these guys. Oh, one other side note on these, I really like dual lands that have a flavor of the particular colors in them. These are all Scry. These are all Scry. Scry seems right for blue-white. Scry does not seem white for red-white. I really like it when Wizards takes the time to make lands interesting so that they really represent the colors that they are able to produce. Number 6 spot here, I have Whip of Erebos. This is an amazing card for control decks. Yes, it's a little bit slow, but lifelink helps you significantly in stabilizing the game. And the return creature from graveyard ability makes it extremely difficult to deal with things like Obsidat. In fact, Obsidat is going to come back with the Whip of Erebos, exile himself, and then come back on the next upkeep to you. The interaction there is just incredible. You know, black-white control deck, this is going to be a finisher and a stabilizer for you. In a black-white-blue Esper deck, this is going to work really well in the control mirror match and may even help you stabilize. Number 5 spot here, I've got Elspeth. I'm not super excited about Elspeth as a Modern or Legacy card, but when it comes to Standard, she is playable. As a Planeswalker, Elspeth has 2 different ways to defend herself. Put 3/1/1 creatures in play as a +1 is amazing. Destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater, that's really good too. So there's 2 nice answers to keep her alive. 2 high casting costs for a Modern or Legacy, but solid in control or in attrition matchups, mid-range matchups in Standard. The -7, not that impressed. One of the weaker ultimates for a Planeswalker, but the fact that she has 2 ways to deal with a oppressive board state gives her my seal of approval. Number 4 spot here, we've got a card that is all over the place right now on people's evaluation. Card Kingdom's got it at $30, Star City Games has it at $40. I really like it. Why? Because the 0 ability is really nice for dealing with control. Right away, you can put out a hasty creature every turn and they've got to deal with it. The +1 ability, though, is going to power some overpowered deck. I really like the original Garruk. The ability to produce mana was very nice for him. It's solid in EDH. But if there is a deck that can really take advantage of monstrosity, it will probably also have this Planeswalker, who I have no idea how to pronounce his name, in the deck. Now, the ultimate, not that amazing. I mean, it really depends on the particular deck that you've got. It should win you the game, but I'm more excited about the impact that he has on the board. He can defend himself, he can produce extra mana the next turn to go over the top also, and is a great way to deal with control decks. Unfortunately, he's going to be in the same decks as Domray, and I believe Domray is a little bit better, so his current price tag, even at 30, I believe is overpriced. I would wait for him to drop down to the 20 range before you pick him up if you want to play him in Standard. Number 3 spot here, I've got Chained to the Rocks. I know everybody is thinking that there's already an answer printed to this card that destroys mountains. Nobody's going to play that answer. It's going to take a while for people to realize how good Chain to the Rocks is. Swords to Plowshare and Path to Exile are amazing cards. If you can main deck this in a control deck or in an aggro deck, you really should. Taking care of your opponent's creatures in an aggro deck and not giving them either life or resources is just too good. This is something that's going to make Boros decks amazing right out of the gate after Theros comes out. In the number 2 spot, yes, I cheated. I put 2 cards in here, and it's really tough for me to decide which of these is better. Red Deck Wins is going to run right out of the gates of Theros. Very easy to build. These are 2 very solid possible replacements for Hellrider. That's it, for Hellrider. The 4 spot here, the Red God is great against control, gives you a lot more reach. The Fanatic is incredible for just killing your opponent extremely quickly. If you've got a fast deck that beats down with a lot of different devotion out there, you're going to hit your opponent really hard and kill them on turn 4. Now, what's really going to determine which of these cards is better is how much play something like Anger of the Gods sees. If your opponent is wiping on turn 3, a turn 4 4/2 is not going to have much of an impact. It's much better to have the God. Yes, I know you haven't had devotion after the board wipe, but every one of your creatures has an additional amount of damage to it. So I'm a fan of playing the Fanatic early before people figure out how to build control decks, and once people have figured out how to build either the Esper or the blue-white control decks, move over to the God and spend the season winning with red. In the number 1 spot here, I've got the Blue God. Indestructible 3-caster who can possibly be a 5/5 and allow you to scry every turn is just incredible. In Modern, this will see play in Merfolks. Also, having a counterspell that has Scry on it is very, very nice. This card may also find a home in some control decks, maybe something enchantment-based, so that you can activate the God without having to lose your devotion to board wipes. I really like this God. She will play really well in blue decks, and I look forward to playtesting with her both in Modern and in Standard. And Dissolve is just such an amazing upgrade to cancel that Control has to be able to find a deck with Caverns of Souls rotating out and some significant improvements in the current environment. Thanks. This has been Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech.